All right, babies, it's that time again. Oh, yeah. How's everybody doing? I can't hear you. Don't you hate it in the in some churches where the preacher says, "Turn to the person next to you and tell them," blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my God, I'm not gonna do that. Because then we're both looking at each other, saying the same thing to each other, and no one's listening because you're both telling each other to do the same thing. I hate manufactured thing like that. It just rubs me the wrong way, baby. All right, so what do we want to talk about? Yesterday I had to get a new muffler, $240. Yeah, baby. And before all that happened, I was talking to the owner of the garage about the Spirit of the Lord and etc. He's a Christian. He's part of like a home church kind of network. And so I thought I'd put him to the test. You know, I'm sitting there waiting. I got nothing else to do. He's sitting there. He's got nothing else to do. And I go there all the time. And, you know, he's a great person. So I just asked him, yeah, baby. I said, if you're going to tell someone what the most important thing they need to do in their walk with God, what would it be? And he thought quietly, which was great. I would guess he probably didn't say a word for about, we'll say 30 seconds. And then when something finally came to his mind, he said, I would say it would be to be obedient. And I said, well, how do you figure that out? Because I'm trying to get right down to it, right? And he said, well, you do, you live according to the Bible, something like that. And I kind of winced. It was like, I said, the problem with that is you have a lot of different interpretations as to what is being said and how to go about actually following through on it. And so then I told him, I said, the way I look at it is just like what I've been telling you. If you live continually, moment to moment, as much as you can, to being an open vessel for God's Spirit to rest in you, and you make serving Him and growing in His attributes your highest priority, as well as helping others take their next best step of growth. You put all that together and you got a nice little mixture there, baby. And that's how you can determine what obedience is. As opposed to going into the Bible and it says, oh, you should kill your disobedient sons or whatever. So, yeah. And then I started talking to him about this other thing where I was telling you how I was trying to help somebody with their message on Facebook who was, they were saying, like the most important thing you got to do is spend time with God. which I agree with. The only difference is his idea of spending time with God and my idea of spending time with God are totally different. And so I was explaining that to him, and he was more in a line with this other person, not me. And he gave this as an example. He said, well, look at Jesus, he says. You just got a pattern, use Jesus as an example. He goes, he prayed 3 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, first thing. I'm like, well, I'm thinking to myself, where did you get that idea? And sure enough, just to check myself, in case I missed something, I did a search first thing in the morning. Couldn't find that, so he was basically defending my position that when you say you go to the Bible for your evidence of obedience, it can be helpful, and I'll tell you why in a second. But it also can be useless. Like in this example, for some reason in his mind, he must have got a teaching sometime from someone who, because there's so many passages in the Gospels where Jesus goes to a private place to pray, somehow he got it in his mind that was a ritual of Jesus of spending 3 hours every morning before he starts his day. So yeah, who knows where that came from. All right, so how can the Bible be useful? I was thinking about this as I was drinking my morning coffee and singing in the Spirit. And by singing in the Spirit, I was just kind of just singing like this simple little melody with no particular attention to the words, just offering myself up, kind of like Jesus did every 3 hours, every morning for 3 hours. I was kind of doing for about 15 minutes. So as I was singing and offering myself up and just being, trying to get my mind fixed on the Lord, I was thinking about what are the most dependable verses in the Bible that you could hang your life on, so to speak. Or if you don't like that metaphor, the most practical and useful passages in the Bible, I would say, are the letters of Paul. The 7 letters that have been attributed to Paul: Romans, Corinthians, 1 Thessalonians, I think Philippians and Ephesians, but maybe not Colossians. Anyway, I think those are the most useful because most scholars, even if they disagree theologically, agree that those 7 letters, and I should memorize those, and when we talk about this, I can be more specific. Those letters can be traced to Paul, and Paul was a contemporary of Jesus right after Jesus died. Paul was still alive for a few years, whereas all the Gospels are written decades after Jesus passed. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say. It's all the time I have. Read Paul's letters. They're the most dependable as far as it came from Paul. The words he's sharing. have changed his life. That's why he's sharing them. And you're going to get better traction out of those than even the Gospels, because the Gospels because they were written decades later, they reflect a lot the views of the author, who are not Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, but reflect the communities that they were trying to reach. So that's all I have time for today. So see you next time, babies.